Did you know that there was a cartographer whose map fundamentally changed how we see the world? Stop scrolling, because this is a story you've likely never heard before, and I promise it will blow your mind. This is the story of Abraham Ortelius, the man who redrew the world on paper and planted the seeds for modern geography as we know it. Let me take you back to 16th century Europe, a time of exploration, discovery, and intense curiosity about what lay beyond the horizon. New lands were being discovered almost every other month by brave sailors who ventured into unknown seas. But there was one problem. People had no clear idea of what the world actually looked like. Maps were fragmented, wildly inaccurate, and oftentimes purely speculative. Each region or country typically focused solely on its own immediate surroundings, and there were no global maps that combined all the pieces of the puzzle. Enter Abraham Ortelius. Born in 1527 in what is now Belgium, Ortelius wasn't just a cartographer, he was something of a Renaissance man. Fluent in multiple languages and skilled in engraving, he was also obsessed with collecting ancient maps. However, unlike anyone before him, Ortelius had a revolutionary vision. He wanted to unify all the known maps of his time into one comprehensive collection. This might sound relatively simple in today's world of Google Maps, but in the 16th century, this was akin to rearranging thousands of puzzle pieces without knowing what the final picture looked like. But Ortelius didn't stop at collecting maps. He took things one step further by analyzing, cross-referencing, and synthesizing these maps to create something entirely new. In 1570, after years of painstaking work, he published his masterpiece, the Theatrum Orbis Terrarum, or the Theatre of the World. The Theatrum was the first ever modern atlas, a book that systematically organized the maps of all known territories. Think about it. Before Ortelius, no one in history had even thought about presenting maps in a bound format for easy comparison. This wasn't simply a book of maps, it was a paradigm shift in how people understood geography. And that's not all. Ortelius's atlas not only documented the configurations of continents, countries, and oceans, but it also included extensive commentary describing the culture, history, and notable features of each region. Imagine flipping through a page and discovering details about the customs of people living halfway across the world, at a time when most journeys took months, if not years. The Theatrum was a global bestseller. Its impact was swift and far-reaching. Monarchs, merchants, and explorers eagerly snatched up copies, using it as a vital tool for navigation, trade, and even diplomacy. But here's the twist in the story that takes Ortelius from being just a cartographer to a visionary. While working on his maps, Ortelius noticed some peculiar patterns. He observed that the coastlines of South America and Africa seemed to fit together like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. Centuries before the theory of continental drift would gain traction, he speculated that the continents might have once been joined and later drifted apart. Think about that for a moment. In the 16th century, without satellites or seismic studies, Ortelius was able to intuit a hypothesis that wouldn't be scientifically validated until the 20th century. Isn't that mind-blowing? Yet Ortelius's legacy doesn't just lie in his vision or his maps. It lies in how he contributed to a democratization of knowledge. By combining and documenting fragmented data from around the globe into a coherent and accessible form, he laid the groundwork for countless advancements in geography, geology, and even the social sciences. He turned geography from a speculative endeavor based on guesswork into a field grounded in empirical evidence and systematic study. Let's also take a moment to appreciate how Ortelius's social circle influenced his success. He was great friends with other notable academics of his time, including the astronomer Tycho Brahe and the geographer Gerardus Mercator. Yes, the Mercator of the Mercator projection. They exchanged ideas, critiqued each other's work, and collectively pushed the boundaries of what the world understood about itself. It was this collaborative environment that allowed Ortelius to refine his ideas and execute them with precision. But of course, no story of innovation is complete without challenges. Ortelius had his critics. Some considered the idea of a world atlas ludicrous and even arrogant. How could one book claim to sum up the entire world? Furthermore, in his attempt to synthesize data from countless maps, he naturally made mistakes. Some territories were exaggerated, others entirely misrepresented. But, as we now know, those inaccuracies weren't flaws, they were stepping stones. Ortelius's maps were a snapshot of his time, continuously improved upon by others who built on his legacy. And speaking of building upon legacies, here's an interesting trivia for you. Many of the early globe makers in the centuries following Ortelius used his atlas as their foundational template. That means the globes displayed in royal courts, naval academies, and merchant guilds across Europe all bore echoes of Ortelius's handiwork. Think about it. Our understanding of the world, at least in its early modern stages, was literally shaped by his vision. As career-defining as Theatrum Orbis Terrarum was, Ortelius didn't rest on his laurels. In his later years, he continued to refine his atlas while publishing other works, delving into historiography and even dabbling in theology. His intellectual curiosity knew no bounds. When Ortelius passed away in 1598, he left behind not just a tangible body of work, but an enduring legacy of intellectual exploration. Today, centuries after his masterpiece first graced the shelves, Abraham Ortelius might not be as well known as Galileo or Columbus, but his influence on the cartographic and geographical sciences is undeniable. So next time you pull up a map or navigate somewhere using your phone, spare a thought for the 16th century genius who made it all possible. In a world obsessed with discovering new frontiers, it's easy to overlook the innovators who gave us the tools to navigate them. But Abraham Ortelius reminds us that sometimes the greatest pioneers aren't those who traverse the unknown seas, but those who teach us how to map our world.